and welcome back to the Breakdown Tech. Today's video has been a very long time in the making. I am going to be showing you guys a step-by-step guide to setting up and building your own Hackintosh. And for those of you that don't know, a Hackintosh is a computer that you've built yourself that's running MacOS on it from Apple, right? It's not on an iMac. It's not on a Mac Pro or a Mac Mini. It's on a computer that you've bought the parts for, you put together yourself, but it's running macOS. This is a great way to get a machine running macOS without having to pay the Apple tax, without having to pay an exuberant price for hardware that you could pick up a lot cheaper if you were to build the system yourself. Before we get on into the video though, be sure to check out our merch store, which will actually be launching this week. We've got a ton of awesome designs based around tech, computer building, and even Hackintoshes. Check it out at the first link in the description down below. So before we get into picking parts, building the system, getting macOS installed on it, and all that stuff, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit as to why you would actually want to build a Hackintosh. You see, Apple's prices are stupid expensive, and usually by building an Apple compatible computer yourself, you're saving quite a bit of money. On top of that, you get more control over your hardware. Things like CPU, GPU, hard drives, port selection, things like that you can control with a Hackintosh that you have no say over if you buy something directly from Apple. This option for additional expandability was one of the main reasons that we decided to build a Hackintosh instead of going out and say buying a used iMac. We could get better specs at a cheaper price with more expandability options. Now, building your own Mac isn't all fairies and rainbows and easiness, right? You have to be super careful about the hardware you choose, and depending on what hardware you choose, things like iMessage, the App Store, location tracking, and a couple of other things might not work correctly. If you build something similar to what we've built back here, well, iMessage works for us perfectly, location tracking works, everything works on the one that we built, but that's not always the case when you build a Hackintosh, so you've got to be very careful about the hardware that you choose. Also, along the way of building a Hackintosh and setting up macOS onto it, you'll run into issues. Hard drives might not format correctly. You might have an issue getting the macOS onto your boot drive, right? Your USB stick that you're going to load macOS up with. You're going to have issues along the way. Overall, it's not easy, but if you're a bit tech savvy and you use this guide and are willing to solve some problems, you'll be able to get a Hackintosh up and running. It's not going to be super smooth, so don't expect it to be, but as long as you're coming into this with wanting to solve problems, you're going to be a-okay. So as we mentioned before, when you're building a Hackintosh, choosing the right hardware is one of the most important parts of the entire process. If you don't have the right hardware that will work with macOS, your Hackintosh will be dead in the water before it's even a Hackintosh. You won't even be able to get macOS onto it. So you've got to make sure that you've got compatible hardware before you even start thinking about putting macOS onto the system. Because of this and all the different kinds of combinations and stuff, it is basically impossible for me to tell you the exact hardware that meets your use case and everything like that. However, you can check out the second link down below for Tony Mac x86's parts buyer's guide. That website is a great resource for building a Hackintosh and a great resource for troubleshooting and things like that. However, you can also post in the comment section down below if you do have an issue, but that's where I would recommend going, the second link down below, to kind of mix and match your parts and figure out what's going to work best for you for your specific use case. That list is constantly up to date with the processors and graphics cards and motherboards and Wi-Fi cards and everything you need for a Hackintosh. It's constantly up to date over there, constantly updated every single month, so you can guarantee those parts are going to work great. Now, for our system, we're going to be using just some hardware we basically had lying around that ended up being Hackintosh compatible, but I'll still run through it here for you guys in order to allow you to buy it used or something like that if you want to build this exact system, which, as I said, has iMessage, the App Store, everything, even audio, is working correctly on it. And if you buy that hardware, this tutorial will work perfectly for you, and it'll be a breeze if you have the exact same hardware as us. So for our CPU, we're going with an Intel Core i5-4570 competent CPU. The main goal for this system is just to be able to record Mac tutorials for our how-to channel, which you can check out at the eye up there. However, this system is going to be great for that with a Core i5, and that older processor means we could save some money on it. Now, the motherboard is extremely important for building a Hackintosh, so we're going with a Gigabyte GA-B85M DS3H. Yeah, that's a mouthful, but it is a completely Hackintoshable motherboard, which is what we want. Like I said, the motherboard is extremely important when you're building a Hackintosh. This is also a micro ATX form factor, which is something I wanted because I wanted to be able to set this system on the desk, so that's great as well. For our RAM, we're going with two 8GB sticks of Crucial Ballistic Sport DDR4 1600 MHz RAM. Pretty standard stuff there. I wanted 16GB of RAM because we had it lying around, and that's pretty much it. It is probably a bit overkill for what we're going to be using this system for, but there's no reason not to have it because we already had it lying around. For our hard drive, we're going with a favorite of mine, a 1TB Western Digital Caviar Blue. I would recommend actually getting an SSD here, but again, we had this hard drive, it wasn't being used, we might as well put it in our Hackintosh build, so that's what we've done. But I would recommend a 250 or 120GB SSD if you can get one new. My camera battery died, sorry about that, but for our GPU, we're going with an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 750 Ti. This thing only has 2GB of GDDR5 VRAM, but it'll get the job done. We're not going to be gaming on this thing or doing anything like that, just recording some videos every once in a while, so no reason for us to go crazy on the graphics card here. But we had it, so we threw it in. For the case, I wouldn't recommend you buy it. I just really wouldn't. The case on this thing is not too great. It's small, which is what I wanted, but I had to move some things around. I've kind of put the hard drive in a very weird place. We'll talk about that here in a second, but overall, I would not recommend this case, but it is from Fractal Designs, and it's their Core 1000 Micro ATX case. Cable management's horrible. I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, that's what we have. For our power supply, we're going with a 500-watt Corsair CX500. Bronze Plus certified. This should be a good enough power supply for this system. We're going to have plenty of headroom for voltage, and yeah, it's pretty reliable, so great power supply for the money. Now, let's talk about Wi-Fi cards. We needed a Wi-Fi card to put into this thing, and the reason for that is because for iMessage to work correctly, for location services to work correctly, you need to put a Wi-Fi card in a Hackintosh, and we put one in here. We went with a Rosewill RNX AC 1900 PCE. Yeah, quite a mouthful, but still a great Wi-Fi card that gets our job done here for allowing us to use iMessage and things like that. And it also has a pretty good signal. I mean, I'm not too far away from the router, but it picks it up pretty well, and I'm able to get pretty consistent speeds with it, so great stuff in regards to that as well. So that's our build. We'll benchmark this system at the end of this video, but overall, we were pretty impressed by the results it gave us. This system would cost around $400 if you bought all of the parts used right now on, say, eBay. That's what I used for my price calculations, and it actually performs better than our mid-2015 Core i5 iMac, which is pretty cool as well, because you could say, but the iMac has the 5K display. Well, you could get a 4K display and still come out cheaper than a used iMac, so yeah. So we picked out our parts, and while this isn't a build guide style video, I did want to mention a few things that I had to do a little bit unique for building this system. First, this case is horrible with cable management. There is literally nowhere to run cables in this thing. I was actually really proud of my cable management job here, considering no cables can be put behind the motherboard whatsoever. Everything has to run just right out in front, and it doesn't look too great because of that, but for what it is, it's a pretty good cable management job. Come on, you gotta admit that. Also, the hard drive setup on this system made the cable management even worse, and it was originally set up to be a vertically mounted hard drive, which there's nothing wrong with that, but there was no way for cable management, and the cables were just sticking out, and it was just very, very odd and very, very ugly. So I converted the disk drive in this thing to actually hold the hard drive. That opened up more space, gave it better airflow, and just made the case look better inside overall. However, I kind of had to use some duct tape to get the hard drive to stay where I wanted it to stay. Just took where you would normally mount a disk drive, mounted the hard drive, and duct taped it on up to get a pretty good result. It looks great in the system, and you can't see the hard drive in my duct tape job whatsoever, so I'll call that a win. However, it was an interesting thing that ended up happening in the course of this build. The system is built. Now on to what you've all been waiting for, getting macOS onto this system. Let's do it!
So you're going to need a Mac to do this tutorial, but no worries there. Borrow one from a friend, get one from a family member, something like that. Once you're on it, hit the Command and spacebar at the exact same time, and then type in App Store. Hit Enter, and it will open up the App Store. Then in the search bar on the top right, you want to type in macOS High Sierra. That's the version of macOS we're going to be installing. Then once you're there, click on Download, and then click on the circle to open up the download page. You're going to also want to go ahead and plug in your USB drive if you've not already done that, and we're going to be using that to install macOS. That's going to need to be at least 16 gigabytes. When it's done, it'll say this right here, macOS Sierra. You want to click on the macOS Sierra in the menu bar and then click Quit. Next, you want to open up a space command. Again, type in disk utility, hit Enter, and then it will open up this. You want to find your USB here. As you can see, right there it is. And then you want to come over and click Erase in the top right under disk utility. You want to name this whatever you want. I just named this Mac or something like this, Hackintosh. And then for the format, you want to go ahead and change that to macOS Extended Journaled. Don't do case sensitive, just macOS Extended Journaled, and then click Erase. It's now going to format your USB. Once that is done, it will tell you here in a second that it is done, and there we go. You want to click Done. Now we need to go download some more stuff. So these links are all in the description down below. Everything that we have and that we download is in the description. So as you can see here, we're on Tony Mac yet again. Link is in the description. And we want to scroll down here, and first off, we want to download UniBeast. And we just download the most recent version, 8.3.2, and that's going to open up this. You will need to make an account on this website to be able to download this, but that's no big deal. It's a free download. You just have to make an account. Boom, download done there. We want to come back to this download page though and scroll up until we see MultiBeast High Sierra. Right there it is, 10.3.0. We click on that and we click the download button in the right hand side of the screen right there. Boom, click download, and there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and go over to macvidcards.com, which is the third link down below. This is where you're going to be able to download an NVIDIA driver. As you can see, if you have a 780 driver or more, you're going to need to do that. Or if you're 750 or any of those graphics cards, you're going to need to download a later version than that. I go down to the bottom and just download the latest version, and that worked great for me. However, you might have to download a different version depending on what graphics card you have. So yeah, go ahead and minimize that. Now we want to go ahead and find UniBeast here. You might have to unzip this file. If you do, just click on it and it will create a folder. Then open that folder. Then open UniBeast. But once you're in here, click continue, 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 over and over and over again. Click agree, and then click on the USB you want to use for your Hackintosh. In this case, I named mine Hackintosh. Then we want to click on High Sierra because that's the OS we're installing. Click continue again. We want to select UEFI boot mode, and then click continue, 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 and then enter your system password, and then you're done. Boom. That will actually take a while, okay? Once it's all said and done, you should have a device called Install macOS High Sierra. Now we want to come back down here and find MultiBeast and drag that onto our USB drive. We also want to go ahead and drag the NVIDIA web driver to our USB drive that we downloaded. There we go. Now we want to eject this USB drive. To do that, just go to your, down at the bottom, your dock, click on Finder, and then on the left-hand side, you'll see the little eject icon there. Then click Eject All, and then it will eject the device. Once it's gone from the left-hand side, you're good to switch over to your PC. Once you're on your PC, you want to go into the BIOS. To do this, just hit the delete key, something like that. Once you're in here, in the Gigabyte BIOS, you want to go all the way over to the right-hand side and then scroll down until you see Load Optimized Defaults. Right there, hit Enter again. There you go. You've now reset to defaults. Now we're going to go back over to BIOS features. We want to scroll down until we see VT-D selected right there. We want to hit enter on that, hit the up arrow, hit enter again. That's now disabled. Then we want to go up to our boot option at the very, very top and make sure that boot option 1 is UEIF, and then that it's the whatever USB we have. In my case, I called it multi-card reader. I don't know why, but once you've confirmed that selected, you can go ahead and hit enter. Now, it's as simple as going over and saving and exiting, basically. So to do that, you want to hit the right arrow over, and then up to the top, save and exit. Click yes again, and it will now reboot your computer. This time, it will boot into something like this. From here, we want to go ahead and click over. until we get to settings. So we're going to click over, boom, there is settings. Click that. Now we want to go into boot args right here and delete everything that's in boot args by hitting enter and then pressing the delete key. Once we've done that, we want to type NV underscore disable equals 1. Next, we want to come back to the bottom, hit enter, and then we want to go over to where it says external right there. It should have that little High Sierra logo. Hit enter, and it will now boot in to allow us to install macOS. Basically, if you're at this point, it's probably going to let you install macOS. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, by the way, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That really does help us out. I've sped a lot of this up in order to get through it faster. However, just know that it might take a while to get through some of this loading and things like that. As long as you're seeing a display, you're pretty much good. Now, once we're here, we want to go ahead and select English as our language, or whatever language you want to go with. I'm going to be going with English. Click the arrow at the bottom to continue on here. If you get a spinning beach ball of death, don't worry, just let it pass, and then you can go. Now, you're going to see me here first go into Disk Utility, click Continue, right? And then you're going to see me go to my hard drive here, which at the top, it's 2 hard drives, right? Internal. It's System Reserved and Disk OS 2. And I'm like, what's going on here? Well, this one's got more stuff on it, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this one. This disk had previously had an installation of Windows on it, so I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So I go over and I just do it how you would normally do this, right? Click Erase. Title the drive, whatever you want to title it. I think I can title it Hackintosh HD. You will be able to see the drive name on your Mac, so be sure to do that. And then I go to macOS Extended Journaled, and then click Erase, right? So it goes through, does its thing, all of that stuff. But you're going to notice here, once we get all the way through this process, that it's not letting me actually install macOS. So when I click Done, close out of Disk Utility with the red X in the top left, you'll notice that it's not going to let me move past installing actually macOS. So go ahead, click Install macOS, click Continue. It's going to load for a second, and then eventually it's going to show us this, where we click Continue, we agree, we click Agree again, and then everything's grayed out for some reason. It won't let me click on Hackintosh HD. It just won't let me do it. And these are the problems that I was telling you about that you might run into when you're installing a Macintosh, right? Installing Mac on a non-Mac system. So I go back and then I click, figure out in the top left up there, I have to click Quit up there in the top left to take me back to this screen. Then I realize I can go to Disk Utility, click Continue, and I actually, see that little bar up there that I clicked? I click Show All, and then boom, it shows the actual hard drive, lets me erase the entire thing. I name it Hackintosh HD. I format it as macOS Extended Journaled, and then this time, though, I change it to GUID Partition Map. Then I go ahead, erase it, and then it'll allow me to do it. If you have any issues, right, with your hard drive, this is what I would do first. That way, you make sure it's set up correctly and good to go. If you're using a brand new drive, you probably won't have to do that, but that's just one of the few issues I ran into when I was actually doing this. This was relatively smooth to me. From here, I went ahead and just clicked Install macOS, click Continue, click Agree again, and then boom, we can click on Hackintosh HD and click Install. This is going to take a while. I sped this up quite a bit in order to, save time here. This video is already quite long, but overall, this is a pretty simple process. Now, I will say this, if you have any issues installing macOS that you've ran into, post those in the comment section down below. Eventually, it'll do this. And it did not finish that download, by the way. It just rebooted. And I was like, crap, what just happened? Nothing. That was apparently supposed to happen. It was fine. And as you'll see in a second, it's just going to load through this, and then there we go. Now it's actually installing macOS. Turns off the computer again, turns it back on, macOS is installed, but we want to go back to options, right? It's all left, or right, options. Type in again, NV underscore disable equal 1, right? There we go. Scroll down to the bottom, and then hit enter. And then this time, we want to go into HFS, right? That's Mac's and Apple's name for the Mac storage system. So click on the HSF drive or HFS drive, and then it will actually finish installing macOS here. Now, this time it's going to boot us in to the actual Mac hard drive, right? Actually boot us in to macOS. Now, it's not done yet, right? You're not at the end of the road if you've just booted into macOS. And as you can see, I sped that up. It took about 30 minutes to get that officially installed. And then again, it rebooted the computer. This time, though, we had an Apple logo. It loaded up again, but this is real time, much, much quicker. And then once it was done with that, it was able to boot us on in to where we wanted to go. So, boom. And then it's going to, there we go. Right now, welcome to macOS. We want to select our country. I'm in the United States. Whatever country you select, doesn't matter. I just live in the United States here. Click on that. Click continue. You want to select your keyboard. I'm a US keyboard. Continue, continue. You don't want to transfer any information right now. Continue. Up at the top, right? The very top, right under where it's that little text, you want to click set up later and then click OK on that because you don't want to set up your Apple ID quite yet. You can later, but not yet. Click agree again, and then you can type in, it says your full name. You don't have to use your full name. You can use your nickname, whatever you want. Type in your account name, type in your password. If you want to give yourself a hint, you can do that, then click continue. But wait, I'm going to go ahead and change my photo here. Might as well. I could have done this later, but you know, why would I? I'm just going to scroll down. Wait, it's black. What's happening? And then it's going to glitch out here in a second, and all those images are going to appear. It's kind of weird, but there you go. So what do I want to go with here? Yes, yin and yang. Let's do that. Boom. Now we can go ahead and click continue, and it will create our account, and then allow us to select our location settings. I tricked you. So we're going to go ahead and click customize there. We do not want to enable location services. Click continue, don't use, and then you need to select your time zone here. Now, this is kind of a cool little tool. I live on the East Coast. You can try to get it as close to your city as you can. I tried to, and it kind of just ended up annoying me a little bit, so I said screw it. You don't want to share Mac Analytics. Click that, and it'll turn the other one off. Then click continue, and now it is setting up your Mac. This may take a few minutes. However, I did speed up the process, and there we go. Keyboard Assistant, you can do it. Just click to the buttons to the left and right of your Shift key. However, I didn't want to do that, so it said keyboard couldn't be identified, so I just closed out of it. Hit the red X. There we go. Now we want to go ahead and open up our SD drive with install macOS High Sierra. Then we want to click on the Multi-Beast folder and then click on Multi-Beast. Then we want to go into Quick Start, click UEFI boot mode, and then you want to find your drivers, right? The drivers that make your computer work. For me, that is going to be the Realtek Ethernet driver there, as well as a Realtek audio driver. You can see those on your screen if you're using my same hardware. You don't need to do anything else on this screen. However, for your hardware, it may be different. Confirm Clover, UEFI boot mode is selected. Nothing to do on customize for us. And then go over to build, and then in the bottom right, click install. Then click agree. Enter your password that you just entered on your Mac. And now we'll go through and download all of the drivers you need to get your Hackintosh up and running. Now, we're not quite done installing drivers yet, but we can go ahead and close out a Multi-Beast. Go back to our USB drive that we have here. Double-click on it, and then click on Web Driver from NVIDIA. Drag that to your desktop, and then double-click on it. And now it's going to open up this. Just click continue, continue, agree, continue, install, enter your password, install software, continue installation. Took a while there, but we got there, and now it's installing your NVIDIA graphics driver for, your Mac, right? So that way your graphics card will actually be able to work. Now you can go ahead and click restart on the NVIDIA driver, and now it will boot into macOS. No boot arguments, no anything. As you'll see, it will open up this right here, but it's got the time, automatic boot in, and there we go. It automatically boots into macOS. It'll load it up here. And it'll be good. You have a Mac now. Congratulations. You might have some other things you need to work out. For us, we just were able to go ahead and plug in our Wi-Fi card, set Wi-Fi up, and enter our Apple ID, and we could use iMessage, we could use everything. But if you have any mileage that may vary, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to help you get all that stuff set up. So if we go up here to About This Mac, we'll be able to see that this is, in fact, a Core i5 at 3.1 gigahertz, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it does have an NVIDIA 750 Ti graphics card. Pretty cool stuff. Open Safari here. I'll be able to show you that the internet does work by going to our website. Currently, we're running off of Wi-Fi. I ended up putting the Wi-Fi card in a little later, but I wanted to boot it on Wi-Fi or on just Ethernet first. But as you can see, internet is working. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You now have a Hackintosh. Congratulations!
So you've got macOS installed, but how do things stand up to even say a real Mac on our system behind me? Well, first we need a comparison point. So we went ahead and loaded up Cinebench on our mid-2015 iMac with a Core i5 and a 2GB AMD Radeon R9 M290 GPU. So basically it's apples to apples, a 2GB AMD GPU versus a 2GB NVIDIA GPU. And we've got a Core i5 on our Hackintosh and a Core i5 on our iMac. Now the one difference here is the iMac only has 8GB of RAM, however that thing has 16GB of RAM, but it's the exact same speed, 1600 megahertz. So no worries as far as RAM speed goes, and Cinebench shouldn't really make a difference whether there's more or less RAM when it's running. The iMac ran at 84.71 on the OpenGL test, and the multi-core CPU test yielded a score of 503. Not too shabby for what it is, but how does our Hackintosh stand up against that? Well, it fared a bit better at 88.1 FPS on the OpenGL test and a 523 score on the multi-core CPU test in Cinebench. Now I know the difference isn't huge here, but overall we ran this test 5 times, and every single time the iMac was beaten by our Hackintosh, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. Plus, if we wanted to upgrade the CPU and GPU on our Hackintosh, we could. We just pop a new one in, download the appropriate drivers, get everything going there, and we're good. It's done. Can't really do that on an iMac, not without a lot of work. You could change out the CPU, but yeah, it's not gonna be easy. On top of all of that, this build only cost us $400 if you were to build it used right now. If you were to buy our same mid-2015 iMac used, it would cost you $1,700. If you ask me, that's not too bad of a savings, even if I am just rocking a 1080p monitor. So there you have it. That is our complete guide to building a Hackintosh. If you have any questions about setting up a Hackintosh, please post them in the comments section down below. I'm here to help as many of you as possible live your Hackintoshing dreams. So yeah, awesome stuff there, and be sure to reach out for help if you need it. Nevertheless, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more incredible tech content like this every single week. We post tons of awesome videos, and I'm sure you guys will enjoy it, so be sure to like and subscribe. My name is Nick, this has been The Breakdown Tech, and I am out, guys. Peace.